Hello, Mark Still here with a special update for Rebuild Mark. I have a guest, somebody with actual experience in doing things like this, Kristen Legan of Rambleur Coaching. Kristen, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to get to help.
Well, I think you're going to find this entertaining because you, more than most people, will know how far away I am from success, but I'm going to get there.
Yep.
You have a line in your bio from the Rambleur.com coaching site, and essentially it's about helping these people you've helped, first timers, professional athletes, but the key piece is at the end while keeping it fun. How do you do that? How do you help people? Because I am just not the sort of person that is a structured training person at all. And I started this with only 3 months to go between now and the race day.
Yeah, it's easy for us to take things really seriously. We set a goal and we put a lot of time and energy into these different bike events that we do. So taking a step back and remembering why we're actually out there and why we're doing this, and that bikes are really fun. And so we should be building that into our training as well. So while, there's plenty of opportunity to do structured training and intervals and FTP tests, it's also about just getting out on the roads, finding that terrain that really, it can push you in different ways that doesn't need to be, second by second structured. So I like to build in, the terrain into the training plans as well. So you can go sprint up a hill or, try and set a new, QOM or KOM out there for yourself and use different things like that to build in a little bit of power, a little bit of extra effort without being super structured as well.
Yeah, I think that just makes it more enjoyable. I think you have a better chance of success when you do it that way.
For sure. Yeah, well, and riding with friends, doing group rides, that kind of stuff as well is always, it's motivating because it makes you actually show up and get out there and do the ride. But then you're working hard without really even thinking about it as well.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a struggle now. I'm in such poor condition that it's hard to find anybody that'll ride that slow with me.
Oh, there's plenty of people out there.
Speaking of KOMs, since I moved to Colorado, I've only ever had one KOM. I had a one-day KOM. We rode from Golden up Lookout. Is it Lookout that's in there? Mm-hmm. Whatever. And then down the other side, I had the one-day KOM going down the hill.
Nice. So, those are hard. The downhill parts are difficult. So that's
it's just the one day.
The skills.
Just for that one day.
Nice.
Well, the story. The story is once reasonably fit recreational cyclist, not a pro or anything, slides down this terrible path of falling away from bikes. And I picked this event. And I actually had the idea sooner, but I didn't actually start doing anything till around March 1st. And so far this month in March, I've ridden, a couple hundred miles total. Okay. And some people said, take it easy. So maybe I was just taking it easy as I got back into things. And hopefully in April, I'm going to move things up a bit. And basically, I just come up with these milestones. And the ones for April are get a couple of 200-mile weeks in and get a 100-mile ride in. And I've got this theory that, I know I'm not going to be physically ready like I should be on that day. So I think the other things matter more. Getting some miles in, but having the right attitude, picking the right stuff, the gear, etc. Right. Is that close? Am I dreaming? Am I fooling myself?
No, I think, it sounds like you come from a pretty big endurance background, which is helpful. You know what it takes to do some of these bigger rides, whether it's an Ironman or other big rides. So having that background just, in your pocket is going to go a long way because you know what it's going to take to get there. So that's a good starting point. And I do think that easing into this was a good call. Trying to jump in and just be training like a pro is a one-way ticket to injury or burnout or something like that. So I think you're doing the right thing. But for right now, I would say just focusing on your consistency is probably the biggest point that I would direct you towards. Trying to get, 4 or 5 days on the bike, even if it's an hour, each of those days versus trying to go out and do one big ride a week. That's going to be a better kind of building that foundation for you so that when you get to into April, you're going to feel more comfortable going out and doing a bigger mileage or trying to do that 100-mile ride before UNBOUND.
So it does help to stack things, multiple days in a row kind of thing?
Yeah, for sure. You want to start trying to build that fatigue because we want our bodies to start adapting to that and getting stronger with that. And then also just the mental aspect of, when you're out there at mile 135 and knowing that you have a big chunk left to go, having that kind of that background of just pushing through when your body's tired, maybe your brain is tired, everything kind of hurts. So
Mm-hmm.
in training, we can practice that by stacking the days.
It's funny you said 135. That happens. I believe that's the longest ride I've ever done. We started a ride where I used to live in North Alabama called the LOL, the Loop of Limestone, and we would ride around the whole edge of the county, and
Nice.
that was about 135 miles. So that's perfect
Yep.
because once I get there, I won't know what comes after that.
Right, exactly. Well, it's pretty unknown out there, just being on gravel and just a really unknown terrain as well. So, yeah, just be prepared for anything, really.
How big a difference do you think that is? Because I was always a road cyclist, but I would, like a lot of people, I'd ride my road bike anywhere. But from a effort level standpoint, a mile on gravel out in Kansas, because that's
Mhm.
different. That's different gravel than we have around here in Colorado.
For
What's
sure.
the effort level difference between that and riding on smooth asphalt?
I think it's surprisingly different, and that's where a lot of us Coloradans, especially, get caught up. Is that we have pretty smooth dirt roads that is fairly gentle. You hit some washboards, and it's not fun to ride on it, but that's you get through it pretty quickly. Kansas gravel can be pretty rugged, and it's a wide mix. You can have some gravel roads out in Kansas that are super flat, super fast, easy to ride, and then some stuff where you just feel like you're getting knocked around and you're like, when is this mile gonna get over? So being prepared for all of those, but the biggest thing is that it is harder on your body. So by the end of 200 miles on the road, you're going to be fatigued, you're going to feel tired, sore, feeling
Mm.
those miles, but after 200 miles on gravel, your body has just gone through a beating. And so it is a much bigger, I think, a much uh, harder experience. And so preparing yourself for that is important. And of course, it's slower. It's, more rolling resistance, all of these different things that are built into it. So
Mm.
preparing yourself for that difference from the road is important.
I have to say I've been pretty pleasantly surprised. And again, you're right. And I ride a lot of roads to get to the gravel here,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not really gravel; it is packed pretty hard dirt. But I've been pretty surprised at how the bike frame that I've got, the wheel and tire combinations, it's not as jarring as I thought it'd be. But
Mm-hmm.
clearly, it's a lot more effort. It's the I feel like I've got a flat tire all the time kind of
Yeah,
feeling. But I have been pretty happy. I've got a very lovely Alchemy Ronin gravel
right.
bike it's been fun. I've never had a gravel. I had an inexpensive gravel bike, but nothing like this.
Mm-hmm.
So stack today's. Get ready for a lot of extra beating. What are the other tips? What are the things that people? I like to think I have the best attitude of anybody I
Mm-hmm.
know on a bike, whether I'm deep in the cave or not. And I
Right.
have done some long stuff, but what are the things that you think trip people up, first timers, particularly out in Kansas? What are the top two
Mm-hmm.
or three things that tend to trip people up that I can watch out for?
Well, I think nutrition and hydration planning is a big part of it, right? It's you can be as strong as strongest person out there, but if you don't take care of yourself with nutrition and hydration, you're gonna be on the side of the road, pretty quickly. They're suffering. So practicing that, everybody's different. There's no one set thing. Say like drink this, eat this, and you'll be good. But I
Mm-hmm.
think really spending the time looking into what has worked for you in the past, and testing out different systems now in your training so that you're prepared, exactly what sports drink or what snacks are going to be good for you. Because again, a lot of times with sports nutrition, you're fine for the first maybe 100 or 130 miles. But then when you get into those later miles, your stomach, your body, everything hurts, nothing's working right. And you just might not be able to eat another goo. Like you just might not get it down. So having a variety of different things that you have as your go-tos that this will work for me. I know almost always I can eat this. So start practicing that, start experimenting with that right now. And then same thing for the hydration. Kansas can be, in Emporia, it can be 95 degrees and, 80% humidity, super hot, super humid. It can be cold as well and rainy. It just depends on the year. But I think the hardest years are definitely the hot and windy years, because you just don't realize how behind you can get in your hydration. And once you're too far behind, it's not a fun day out there. So
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the biggest ones I'd say to focus on.
That's a good one. Even in the little bit of riding, as I get back to it, I can already tell that I don't absorb like I did when I was doing this every day of the week years ago. So
Right.
that's a really good tip too. And hopefully, if the hot and humid conditions happen, I mean, I am originally from the South. I'm used to that. So that's one
Yeah.
more, one
Good.
more, maybe that's a bonus point for me in finishing.
Exactly.
Do you think that when you do the coaching in some of these camps that you do and your personal clients with that, do you spend a lot of time on mechanical issues? I mean, how big a deal do you think it is to be? I think I'm fairly mechanically inclined. Do you think that's a big deal to prep for?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we're out, it's technically self-supported other than the checkpoints, where you can get resupply and, swap tools and that kind of stuff, with your crew. So knowing, basic maintenance on, how, if you get a flat tire, how to plug a tubeless tire, you definitely want to have tubeless out at Unbound. That's 100%. You have to do that. So knowing how to plug that or change a flat. Things like if you break a chain, or if you're rear derailleur, if you hit a rock and you get tangled up in there. So I do think it's really important. It's something that we do work with at all the camps that we do out here, and talking through how to do those changes, because it's not worth carrying all the tools to fix your bike in all these different ways if you don't actually know how to use those tools. So think about, prioritize what you're comfortable fixing, and practice that. Go out on the road and let some air out of your tire, and, practice changing a flat, or, pumping up your tire. Make sure your pump is working, or your CO2 system is working. So practicing all of that just makes it that much easier when you're out on course. So that, when we're tired and kind of our brains aren't working right, you just know what to do pretty instinctually.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just owning the stuff isn't going to make it happen.
Right.
Um,
Thankfully, tires tires have come a long way. I'd say in like the last 5 to 8 years. A long time. You hear all these horror stories of people flatting, 8, 9, 10 times, and it still happens for sure. Don't get me wrong, but thankfully, tires and the plug system and the tubeless systems are getting much, much more robust, and so. You don't hear about that quite as much. You can usually just plug something and keep moving. But knowing how to do that's the first step.
And I've never done that. The last time I rode road bikes, tubeless, I actually rode the very first generation of Shimano tubeless road wheels back in 06 or 07.
Yeah.
But, having that with 80 or 85 PSI, that's a different
Yeah.
situation now. So we didn't have the plugs back then. So I've got some, but I haven't actually plugged the tire. Do you have particular tire recommendations? Do you have a favorite? I know you've done the event a lot, right? You've done a lot of these kind of events. Do you have a favorite tire?
Yeah, it depends on a few things. So I've raced on the Specialized Pathfinders the last couple of years, and I think those are great. They feel super fast. They feel pretty reliable and robust out there. I also like the Terravale Cannonballs. They're a little bit more of a rugged tire. That's something that maybe you're not looking to set any records or be top of your age group as much, and you just want something that's super reliable, maybe a little bit slower, but it's not changing a flat is a lot faster than changing one, so it's worth the trade-off a lot of times. So those are kind of the two that I'll typically go back and forth with depending on the terrain and what we're looking at.
I think I have Terravale. I know they're Terravale. I think they're Cannonballs on the bike now.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, one of the biggest things is just
right.
Yeah, good. It's going to be nice and easy for you, but yeah, just making sure you also have wide enough tires. I've done Unbound on 35 millimeter tires, and back in 2014 or something, when that was wide. And I'll tell you, it's a lot more comfortable when we get up into those 40s, 42 range. So whatever your bike can fit, obviously you have to work around that, but the wider typically is a better option.
Yeah, it's probably more so with a larger person. So even if things go well, I'm still going to be 210 or so. So, and they're 42s on there now. I'm playing
Perfect.
with tire pressures. I don't know that I want to go the absolute lowest I can go. I think a couple of PSI extras, a little extra insurance on, folding the sidewall over. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think just getting out and practicing on it and knowing what feels comfortable to you in your home trails, and then definitely get out, the day before if you're in Emporia, and test it out on the gravel here, because it's going to feel a little bit different. So everybody's different. Lower tends to be better on when it comes to the rolling resistance and just the speed of things, but it's also a comfort level. And sometimes when those sidewalls do fold a little bit, in a turn, it's not a happy feeling. So maybe it's not worth running it that low.
Yeah, I want to figure out where a little extra insurance fits in there.
Yeah, exactly.
I tend to, pat myself on the back about having the right attitude. I've been, deep into an Ironman and felt like the world was going to end, but I kept going.
Right.
How big a deal, and tell me it's a really big deal, is having the right attitude? That's kind of one of the best things I got going for me. And how do you stay in that state and work through those things?
Yeah, no, it is. It's definitely the biggest part of this, the mental side of being out there for so many hours and being just, on that rugged terrain. It's incredibly important to have that attitude. So look, we're all going to have super highs out there where you're just like, oh, this is amazing. It's beautiful. I'm riding. I feel amazing. I just ate something. It's great. And then you're going to have these super lows as well, where you're just like, why did I ever sign up for this? Everything hurts. I hate this. I think I've personally quit gravel racing probably 15 times, in every race. So just know that you're going to have those highs and lows. Neither of them are going to last forever. So when you're super high, enjoy it, because it's going to get worse from there. And when you're super low, know that it's going to go up. But it's also, when you are low, having some key things that you can say, okay, I'm struggling right now. What can I do to break me away from this? First thing is to eat. 9 times out of 10, you're low blood sugar. You're just not feeling good. And so you start feeling mentally bad as well. So eat something. And then also having some sort of, a mental cue or something that you can use to remind yourself why you're out there. Write a little note on your top tube, on a piece of tape, and tape it to your top tube to remind yourself to relax and smile and tell people good job, because it will help you as well. But I think once you're out there, it's pretty cool to be surrounded by so many people kind of going through the same thing as you. And so tapping into that community is a great way to kind of stay on top of your attitude and remind yourself that, we're out here having fun together. It might not always feel great, but it's pretty special that we get to do this.
Yeah, that's good advice. And of course, keeping your head in the game to finish, that's going to be the best thing ever, because it's got to just be an amazing feeling to cross the line after such a long event.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Use that as like a little visualization. Go drive down, Commercial Street the day before, and just think about, riding your bike down there and having it lined with people cheering for you. It's a great way to, when you start to think like, oh, should I just, maybe I'll pull out a little bit early of the race. I don't need to finish all the way. But if you think of that, it'll help you get to that finish line.
I've never not finished anything like this. But of course, this is the biggest thing ever. I mean, I spent 13 hours and 20 minutes or so in an Ironman, but I've never not finished something. I've not finished a crit once or twice, but I've never not finished this. So that's not a good thing. But I will say that just starting has been great. And if I get to Kansas, it'll be great. And if I get halfway through, it'll be great. But I don't know. I never not finished. So I do want to make sure I do that. Are there any, cause I haven't been to Kansas. I won't see any of the course ahead of time, but you're familiar with what Colorado's like and what Kansas is like. What's going to be the biggest surprise, or what what are the hills like? Are there long
Mhm.
hills? What's the
Yeah.
correlation, and how might I try and prepare a little bit for that ahead of time?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question. So, in Colorado, especially on the Front Range, it's either really flat when you go out east into into the country, or you're going up the mountains and doing long, 20, 30, 40-minute climbs. That's really different than Kansas, where it's very rolling, where you're going to be going up, maybe 2 to 5 minute climbs for the most part. There's probably about 3 or 4 real steep climbs where you're like, I'm pretty proud I didn't walk that one, at 100 miles in and my legs are tired and it's loose and it's a steep climb.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to hit a few of those, but for the most part, I'd say it's a pretty rolling terrain. So I think going out and kind of finding that, if you can find some sort of terrain, out in some of into the farm roads out eastern Colorado, you do get some of that elevation. But I think just being prepared for, it's not going to be this, 20-minute steady effort where you find a cadence and you just kind of grind it out. It's going to be a much more dynamic, trying to find the speed going down the hills and being confident, and then being able to use that to kind of transfer into the uphills as well. So I think there's some technique in the riding as well, besides just power. It's about where to apply that power to maximize your efficiency out there.
That could be. I hadn't thought about it. That could be different. So if it's rolling and you're coming down, some speed and loose gravel is a combination that maybe I'm not so used to. I should try and test that out too. Eh?
Yeah, for sure. Again, the more you can, in anything you're doing, whether it's the training or the technique, the more you can be race specific going into the event, the more prepared you're going to be. So trying to find some steeper gravel hills that you can go down and up, and just know what it feels like to climb out of the saddle when your rear wheel might skid out a little bit, and
Mm-hmm.
then descending down. How does that what's the most comfortable position when you're getting down in the drops and having a bit more of an attack position versus, being upright and a little bit more wobbly.
Yeah, and you said some of those hills can be quite steep. Is that 6-8%, or is that 10-12%?
No, I think you're closer in like the 6-8%. It doesn't get, it's not, yeah, crazy steep, but again, those are pretty short. Then they're spread out throughout the course. So you'll see a little of everything. In 200 miles, you're going to see a lot of different things because it
Yeah.
just has the opportunity for it.
I don't mean to fixate on that, but I've already
Yeah.
ridden some fairly steep hills around here with the gear ratios I've got. And at
Mm-hmm.
my current weight, around 8% is about the level I can
Mm-hmm.
spin anything up. Anything steeper than that's going to be a weightlifting exercise. And that,
Right.
that's different. Hopefully, I'm not quite as. Everybody should ride a bike. I don't care what your body type is. I should be riding a bike. But the physics says it takes more energy to haul an extra 30 or 40 pounds up a hill. So that's why I asked
Right.
that. Now I'm just going to go, it's not a problem. I'm going to put it out of my head.
Yeah. It's all good just taking your time and finding the right garage or the speed that feels right to you that you can maintain, right? Like sometimes you'll be faster on the hills and sometimes you'll be faster on the flats. And so just being okay with where you're at, I think that's the most important part, stepping
Yep,
onto the start line.
absolutely. Well, this has been super helpful. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it. Have I missed anything that you think everybody should know and keep in the back of their mind as they approach something like this?
I think just again, like going back to kind of where we started of having fun with it, that the preparation should be fun. It's something that we're choosing to do. It can feel overwhelming. You can start looking at the course or, the resupply or all these different things, and it can feel really overwhelming. But just remember, we're just going for a big, long bike ride, and so just approach it with that mindset and know, look, I can ride my bike as long as I can eat and drink. I can keep riding my bike all day. So, you can get through it and just, yeah, have fun out there.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, thank you again. How can
Yeah.
folks reach out to you? There's Rambleur.com is the website for coaching. What's the best way if people have questions or want to get involved? You've got an awesome training coaching package that includes all the coaching for Unbound and even entry.
Right.
What's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Yeah. Check out Rambleur.com. It's Rambleur. That's all the coaching info. And then I'm also on all the social medias. You can always reach out through that. It's Kristen Legan up there. And yeah, happy to chat with anybody, and just looking for some advice. Always looking to dive into it with you folks.
Outstanding. Well, hopefully we'll follow up after, and I'll tell
Yeah.
you how much all this helped, and it's the main reason I got through it all. So thank you again for taking the time. It's been fun.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you out there.